Spirit Bus 33 fam, welcome. Thank you for being here. So much gratitude for you taking your time out, your energy out to spend some of it with me. Appreciate you. Episode number 23. Excited to be here. If you listened to the last episode, you knew that I had taken a trip to Kansas. I had some beautiful time with family, connected with some amazing people. Just, just very, very beautiful. If you recall the last episode, I kind of provided this uh, quote from Hopi Indian leader White Eagle. And I wanted to share right after I recorded that episode, it was in Decorah, Iowa. I then left on my way, driving through Kansas City, and I was going through these back, roads, county roads in Iowa. And right after talking about White Eagle, I had the most amazing experience with the biggest bald eagle I have seen, and also the closest experience. Usually, I see them flying in the sky above me, which I totally get a kick out of and just love. But this one just gave me this huge demonstration right in front of the windshield and just kind of back and forth. And then through the rear view, I was able to see it kind of land off onto the, in the brush in the side of the road. And it filled me with so much joy. And these are the things that really aid my healing journey, are the synchronicities, those things that repeat. Again, some people might call those, coincidence. I've had too many of them happen. I don't call them coincidence. I call them synchronicities. They help me. They help me feel connected to this earth experience in a very spiritual way. As a spiritual being having an earth experience, they're a little like you're on the right track, type of message from the universe, from source, from the divine. Those are some of the words that I use, but I invite you to, if you feel aligned, is pay attention to some of the synchronicities for you. And, there's a lot of information that comes through them. For me, when I saw that bald eagle, I felt that I had shared something special, that I was getting kind of like a reflection back of, that was an important thing to share, that his message, in that last episode. So I wanted to share that experience with you. And, I really resonate, like many people, with eagles. It's definitely when I'm learning more about totems, it is one of my, spirit guides. And I continue to learn lessons from the eagle. Remember, the eagle sees from high above all the possibilities. So taking on that energy of nothing has to sit in the black and white, and nothing has to be all or nothing, as we can soar above and see the many possibilities, that come from that energy of eagle. And so powerful. It's powerful, powerful energy. So then I went to Kansas, and what was interesting, for my experience, and is that as soon as I got to about Des Moines, Iowa, things shifted, for me energetically. And for myself personally, is that I'm recognizing that big city energy activates my nervous system. And so I'm going to have to start taking some different precautions the next time that I go on these adventures, that I'll either be crossing through big cities or I'll be staying in them. And so again, I invite you to, if you're someone who's traveling, is to really pay attention to your nervous system, to your body, so that you can do, some bottom up type of work if need be. Because a lot of times you cannot intellectualize your way, out of these, you know, triggers, if you want to use that word, these activations that are in the body. It has to be body first, body and then up. But again, I met some amazing people. I went to a couple AA meetings, and it just felt so good to be around a group of people, that not only, do they know firsthand, what addiction or alcoholism or, whatever, there is a duality in the meetings between addicts and alcoholics, but they know firsthand what it's like to be powerless over a substance. And I really enjoy spending time, with people that can relate to that on a personal level. And I think it's because part of me can really be open in those settings of, just how detrimental, my historical addiction, you know, just how detrimental it was to my experience. And everyone around can really relate because they have a similar story. They're not the same stories, but they're all very similar. If there's anyone that's listening, that you feel like your life has become unmanageable for any type of substance, I invite you to really reach out, to seek treatment. It doesn't have to be AA. It can be harm reduction. It can be going to a treatment center. It could be just reaching out to some natural supports. It can be just really keeping your life some California sober kind of vibe. It's whatever you need so that you can have less and less of a trail of destruction that follows you. So a reminder from the last episodes is, so these rabbit holes that I'm now just peering into, right? I'm not falling into to get stuck in any rigid beliefs, to roll around in the mud. Instead I'm peering in, and then I'm walking through the doors, after walking through the gates, taking the bits and pieces that resonate, that I would like to create my reality with. One of those rabbit holes that I'm like peering into is, and it has repeated over and over through, different things coming to me, via the internet, is the word alcohol may have the origins from an Arabic term al-qual, which may mean body eating spirit. Again, this has come through in so many different podcasts I've listened to. It's come through in alternative social media sites. So I decided, because I was going to mention it on this podcast, which I like to do the research on the things that I talk about. So I did just a basic Google search on just the mainstream, um, search engine that the majority of us utilize. And fact checks said that they did not find this information to be true. And there were some other origins of it that I didn't take the time, because they didn't resonate. But I thought that that was interesting, that I had heard so much about it and there was nothing on there except for that it wasn't true. So I did some searches on some alternative sites, and there were many people incorporating this into their work, and some of the repetitive sites were of mediums, a lot of holistic practitioners, a lot of psychics, and they tapped into, this information about this Arabic term, and also, referring to it as, spirit, the word spirits, which we all know, that that is something that is incorporated into our culture, is another term for alcohol is spirits. So again, right, I'm not like falling into this and getting consumed by it. I'm just peering in and I'm like, interesting. Okay. So there's some difference of opinions here. And I have not found like the original source, which I don't know if that would be a book or what would that be, to really solidify for me if this is true that it comes from this Arabic term, or I would say some of the origins, because there has to be many origins at once, from alcohol from one place to the next. So how I move forward with this information is I really sit and trust, my intuition on that. So we know again that alcohol is called spirits. We know that people black out and they sometimes act in horrible ways that are outside of their character. We know personalities shift a little bit. Um, we know that, God, well, long term alcoholism leads to liver failure. We know that the substance tears apart families. It's highly addictive. I mean, these are things that are factual that we know. So I think it's interesting that on the holistic side, it's being portrayed as a body eating spirit, which when I'm taking just my intuitive response with it, and I am, just taking the facts, is it doesn't seem that far off. I mean, it literally destroys you at a cellular level. Again, I'm not sure if taken in moderation for those people out there that are able to take in substances, like alcohol in moderation. I would say moderation would be to not have a negative impact. I would have to, again, do a little research, but I would say that it would be very limited alcohol use, for that to be considered not harmful for your organs, for your cells. It keeps us, kind of this mental illness too. I mean, it is definitely disrupts the brain function, disrupts the body function with hangovers. It really does a number to people. And if you're not aligned with this, if you're having a different experience, like that's okay. Again, this is a choose your own adventure earth experience, So if you've done research on this, um, and you have some of the origins of this, Arabic uh, beliefs, like the body eating spirit origins. Like if you have some of that and you know a book that has that in there, or you're familiar with sites, share it, leave it in the comments. Let me know. I would love to know more about it. Because there is a huge part of me that feels like a lot more aligned from having a book with like sources cited, not necessarily like it always has to come from like science, because I feel like a lot of research can be skewed to, meet the demands of whoever, is conducting the research, but just books that have, some origins in it that seem legitimate. I feel like I resonate with them more than, information that we're getting on the internet, which, again, in some realities could feel censored. And the reason why I think that I am not like everything has to be answered by science is because there are indeed, again, my truth, many people's truth, psychics, mediums, that receive information that it can't be explained by just science only, and are used, with law enforcement at times, are uh, they're more embedded in our culture than I think a lot of people are aware of. And the messages that are coming through, these people that have the abilities to receive them and let them flow from them, they're coming from somewhere greater, than what we're experiencing. And there is some belief systems that we all have this capability to a certain degree with different levels, of not levels in a hierarchy sort of way, but that we each have our own unique gifts, but that we have, been conditioned that these type of things, are just woo woo, or, that there is no legitimacy in it. Anyway, okay, moving along. So, you are worthy, fam, of all the abundance in all possible ways. Let's just kind of shift into that. You are important. Your relationship with yourself is important. It's why it is vital that we get to know ourselves and what we believe in, because our relationship with ourselves is the most complex, you know, just so amazing to get to know our own consciousness that keeps shifting and changing and has all of these, very interesting parts that are, contributed from our past and our present and what we're creating in the future. And fam, if you have some like a fucky past chapters, I think it's really time. It's time to really step into some forgiveness. Is to not sit in it and roll around in it. As what we think about expands. I'm going to share some from the Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz. He shares, how many times do we pay for one mistake? The answer is thousands of times. The human is the only animal on earth that pays 1,000 times for the same mistake. And then he goes on to say, we have a powerful memory. We make a mistake, we judge ourselves, we find ourselves guilty, and we punish ourselves. If justice exists, then that was enough. We don't need to do it again. But every time we remember, we judge ourselves again, we are guilty again, and we punish ourselves again and again and again. If this sounds like you, come on, alchemist, light worker, you deserve the same grace that you give others. Like, you are worthy. Mistakes don't need to define you. Trust me. Trust me on this. I have made some terrible, terrible choices in my past. And trauma is very tricky. And if I can forgive myself, I promise that you can too. I think it's time to break free of the conditioning that you are bad, unworthy, fill in the blank of whatever negative, thoughts that you have about yourself. So Sanaya Roman from Personal Power Through Awareness shares, many of you are developing the ability to maintain your sense of self and steer clear of the mass or group thinking that does not fit you. It's time to step out and step forward in the most authentic self that you are aware of right now. It's time to show up for yourself because you're worthy. When I'm saying that, if there's something that comes to you that snags you, that's kind of saying, oh, but not for me, or oh, that's wrong for me, I strongly invite you to challenge that conditioning. If you keep engaging in activities that are surrounded by chaos, negative consequences, I invite you to lean in, adding some self-love, some self-care, some kindness to yourself. It really does wonders. Again, work with a mentor, coach, shaman, therapist, whatever your intuition calls you to do, is that having a support team changes things in a really big way. One way that you can start or continue, if you're not already, is just, adding some mindfulness, into your daily practices. Maybe just do a little research on what mindfulness is so you can start coming up with your own definition. Dr. John Kabat-Zinn defines mindfulness as paying attention to something in a particular way on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And this is powerful because we have 60,000 thoughts and plus emotions, feelings per day. Reminder, they're coming in without your permission. These aren't intentional thoughts. It's so easy for the mind to get cluttered. And so mindfulness provides, this intentional way of thinking that we can practice, to help our reality feel more comfortable. Kind of drawing from Deborah Burdick, mindfulness workbook. I may have said her Burdick. I'm not sure. Okay. Mindfulness workbook. Sorry, I had to pause there for a minute to make sure I had her name right. Deborah Burdick. Okay, so she has this mindfulness workbook that provides this example. And so I invite you to perhaps do this visualization activity with me. Now, I have changed a little bit of it, so it's not verbatim. So if you want to grab her workbook and kind of go through it in her style, that would be cool too. Okay, just get comfortable for a second and just visualize a medium size or whatever size you feel called to fishbowl. And you have it in your line of vision here. You can look through it and you can see everything that's inside. And you can also see what is on the other side of it. Perhaps, visualize it exactly how you're sitting right now. Is maybe you can see your glass of water on the other side, or maybe you can see the other side of your living space, or if you're outdoors, you can see the trees. So then imagine sprinkling some baking soda into this fishbowl. And as you can imagine, knowing, what baking soda would do in water, it will become very cloudy, really murky. And so this description, this is our mind when these intrusive negative thoughts come in, when we're experiencing, a nervous system activation. It shuts down the critical thinking and it becomes very murky. So mindfulness practices that helps to settle the baking soda. And I love that description. It's a great visualization. And so the next time that you're feeling a little cloudy or you're noticing, those, that you're feeling a little fuzzy, you're noticing the negative self-talk, is I invite you to just think about, that fishbowl. And then again, you're doing your own research, of what mindfulness practices, align with you. And then, to utilize some of those, such as, some visualizations, some breathing. Remember with the visualizations or the intellectualizing, part of it is that sometimes, the top down approach, the brain down doesn't work. We need to do the bottom up, the body first, and then, come to the mind. So coming up with, some of those practices, and again, using maybe some breathing to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which would be, kind of that body up bottom up approach may not work all the time, so it's like we need to learn a bunch of different approaches. Sometimes it's going for a walk, is me and my partner took a walk in the woods for quite a decent amount of time yesterday, and I felt so much clearer after. So it's just maybe spending some time forest bathing, put your hand on a tree, whatever aligns with you, taking in the colors, having adventure, is really learning yourself again, doing the research on yourself, the greatest research project you're ever going to have on how do you clear out, these uncomfortable responses that your body's having and become, your most favorite version of yourself and know how to get back to that, when these activations occur. Well, fam, if you're still here, thanks for taking a seat on this bus. I appreciate you again. This is a, learning curve, speaking out loud to other people, trying to become more organized, and really just putting myself out there in a vulnerable way. It's any other type of art. So for those listening, I'm just like really grateful that you're spending, this like about 30 minutes, with me. It's just really cool. Thank you. Okay, so let's do a reading from the Osho deck. Got the cards out, a 3-card draw. First card, adventure. Love that I pulled that. Hope that you're having some adventure in your life. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be, some traveling, or it can be, well, anything can be made into an adventure. It's really tapping into that like childlike wonder, that like looking at things through that like awe, like through the amazement of just how beautiful this experience can be. Difficult, yes. Challenging, yes. Hard, yes. But there's so much beauty. Second card, existence. For some, this is kind of can be heavy and have some existential type of feelings in it, but you are the only one having your exact experience. Now we're all kind of, once we get to know each other, we have a lot in common and we're seeing things and we're really mirrors of one another. But your experience is completely different than anyone else right now. Just feel yourself right this second, your consciousness. Look around at what you're looking at right now. Like you're the only one having this experience. So again, why it's so important, to really start to cultivate the experience that you would like to have. What's within your circle of control? What can you do today, to shift it? Third card, success. You've had many successes. It's easy to focus on all the things that have gone wrong, but what about all the things that have gone right? And there's a lot of them. Even just within one day, I invite you to look at yesterday or the day before or the week and just look at the things that you did good. And for some, it's okay if that is, I got out of bed. That's cool. That's a success. So inviting you to really pay attention and congratulate yourselves on that. Okay, so conversations with souls. This card, shine your light with compassion. Teach others to love by example. I love this card. It's something that I'm working on right now, is really walking through life, in this vibration of love to everyone that I encounter. And this does not mean that I am like open-hearted, open door policy with people. No. There that is not the case. There are still boundaries, there are still, people that, that I would come in contact with that I wouldn't be like, "Hey, come up in my house." But it's moving through with compassion and then walking, with that love, that vibration of love, which then ripples out, which then is a great example for other people. And it's really a great, great vibration to walk around in. Because, just visualize yourself checking out, at the gas station and you're having a shit day, a challenging day, and you're having, that scoff on your face or whatever it is, you're sending that out to that person doesn't know that you're having a hard day. They may be taking it in as if there is something about them, or it's just transferring energy to completely. And I'm not saying to mask, is that we can take the time to say, okay, I'm going to walk through this with the vibration of love, not only for myself, to help my nervous system calm down. I'm going to do some breathing while I'm in the store. I'm going to send out, this love energy through me because I know what I send out comes back to me. And that may not have been the greatest example, but I hope that you can take this, shine your light with compassion, teach others to love by example. I hope that you can take that and work with it and make it into something for yourself. All right. Again, thank you so much. I almost did it. My goal is for my episodes to be 33 minutes, and I'm just about a minute off. I'm hoping to have some intro music and outro, I just learned that it's called, music coming up really soon. So I'm excited for that. Again, if anyone is looking for some logo needs, Old Ghost Records, you can get a hold of Stone through that. And with that, fam, I will see you soon.